The stage was Beijing. The message was global. And the audience was the entire Western world. As Vladimir Putin stood beside Xi Jinping inside the Great Hall of the People, this was no ordinary diplomatic meeting. This was a declaration. A declaration that the Russia-China axis is not weakening under sanctions, wars, military pressure, or isolation. It is hardening. And now, Moscow and Beijing are openly telling the world. The era of Western dominance is being challenged. The symbolism was impossible to miss. Just days after hosting Donald Trump with military bands, red carpets, and carefully choreographed diplomacy, Xi Jinping rolled out another grand welcome. This time for Vladimir Putin, a leader sanctioned by the West, a president accused of war crimes, a man many in Washington hoped to isolate internationally. Instead, Putin arrived in Beijing like a leader returning to friendly territory. Guard of honor, state banquet, private tea with Xi Jinping, and finally, a sweeping joint declaration that directly challenged the global order led by the United States and its allies. Because this document was not simply diplomatic language. It was geopolitical messaging. Line by line, Moscow and Beijing pushed back against what they describe as Western hegemony. The statement warned against a return to the law of the jungle in international politics. It rejected the idea of first-class nations. And it accused powerful countries of interfering in sovereign states under the banner of democracy and human rights. In simple terms, Russia and China are positioning themselves as the leaders of an alternative world order, one built to resist American dominance. And then came the sharper warnings. Xi and Putin openly criticized NATO's growing role in the Asia-Pacific region. They called Japan's military expansion a threat to peace. They condemned unilateral sanctions. And most dramatically, they declared that American and Israeli strikes on Iran were illegal and destabilizing. That matters, because this was not just Russia speaking. This was China publicly aligning itself much more closely with Moscow on some of the most explosive geopolitical crises on Earth. Ukraine, Iran, Asia-Pacific security, global trade, sanctions, issue after issue. The two powers projected a united front. And behind the scenes, the strategic cooperation is only expanding. Russia and China are deepening military coordination, expanding energy partnerships, linking navigation systems like GLONASS and Beidou, increasing trade in yuan and rubles instead of dollars. Together, they are trying to build systems less vulnerable to Western financial pressure. That is one of the biggest long-term stories unfolding right now. Because beneath the smiles and handshakes, a silent global power struggle is accelerating. For Putin, this visit carried enormous importance. After years of war in Ukraine and growing dependence on Beijing, China has effectively become Russia's economic lifeline, buying massive volumes of Russian oil, keeping trade flowing under sanctions, and giving Moscow diplomatic cover at the United Nations. Without China, Russia's isolation would look very different. And for Xi Jinping, Russia remains strategically valuable. Because Beijing understands something very clearly. A weakened Russia means a stronger United States. That is why China continues walking a careful diplomatic tightrope, publicly calling for peace, while simultaneously strengthening ties with Moscow. And now, with wars raging in Ukraine and the Middle East, China wants to present itself as the center of a new multipolar world. Perhaps that is the real significance of this summit. Not merely that Putin visited China, but that China is increasingly becoming the meeting point of rival global power centers. America, Russia, Iran, the Gulf, Europe, the Global South. All roads, increasingly, seem to pass through Beijing. And Xi Jinping wants the world to see exactly that. Because the message from this summit was loud, calculated, and unmistakable. The West may still dominate the current world order, but Russia and China are preparing for the next one.
If you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe to Mirror Now.